First, the news that got released yesterday and the fact that come next year, we will not see Sergio Perez at Racing Point when it is rebranded as Aston Martin. And that started to ask the question, well, who's going to get that seat? We've seen Seb flirting with the likes of Racing Point recently. And then this morning, we got the news, indeed, that it will be Sebastian Vettel that will suit up for Aston Martin come 2021. So, Lenny, let's just start with you, because I do know that's your boy, and we were just talking off camera for a second, and you were saying finally Germany has something to smile about, because it really has been such a tough year, probably the toughest year we've seen for the four-time Formula One champion.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's really good to have something. It's a bit of fresh air coming in for us in Germany, so we don't have to report about exploding brake wires and crashes and worse qualifyings. And it's just a good feeling that finally things are going to get a bit more positive. And however the season is going on with Seb for Ferrari, we know there's light at the end of the tunnel, and he's going to have a lot of fun, I think, in this car and this team next year. So I'm looking forward to it. And yeah, for us in Germany, it's really good news.
We kind of knew this was in the offing, but then there were some doubts starting to creep in, because we were first talking about this, I think, in the second Austria race. You know, obviously we knew Sebastian's future with Ferrari was already sealed by then, and it was a question of where he would go. And Racing Point made perfect sense. But the longer it went on, knowing that Perez had a contract, Stroll had a contract, we were starting to question a little bit. But yeah, we kind of knew this was coming at the end. The timing is what made me smile, was that the timing on the eve of Ferrari's 1000th race in Formula One, Sebastian Vettel chooses this time to announce it. I don't know the exact details. Maybe Lenny knows more. Maybe it was because that's when they finally sorted out the Sergio Perez contract going forward. But the timing, I don't think it's been lost on anyone. And it's nice in a way, because I think we all felt that even if Sebastian didn't deserve to keep his Ferrari seat going forward, given everything that's happened the last few years, it still felt a little bit harsh the way he was treated. The fact that he was never even offered a contract, and Ferrari paraded him at the start of this year as their number one pick, and yet, you know, it never came together. So I think we can all kind of understand and kind of feel happy about Sebastian's announcement today.
You know, I like to spare a thought for people, Laurence. So I kind of do want to spare a thought for Checo in this one, because like you said, we were starting to have doubts, given the fact that he still did have that contract with Racing Point. We know the quality he is. I mean, we know that his teammates wasn't definitely going anywhere anytime soon, no matter what. But still, do you think he'd be a little hard done by with this, or what do you think happened there, I suppose?
Yeah, I think there's the other side to it, isn't it? Yeah, and I think Perez will feel hard done by there. He's still performing on a good level. I'd say of the two Racing Point drivers, he's still the one that in normal circumstances you would keep at the team. But of course, Lance's position with his father as the main shareholder in that team makes maybe that decision quite straightforward for Racing Point, seems to be Aston Martin. So yeah, I really feel for Perez. I really hope he lands a seat elsewhere. Alfa Romeo's been talked about quite a lot. Seems like a logical choice. Haas still has availability, so that would be good to see him get that. But I just feel like he's been at that team for so long. He was for a long time on 1 year contracts, and all of a sudden he had this 3 year contract. And everything was coming together. You know, the team had the funding it finally needed to get the most out of the resources and the people they have. And it was going to be rebranded under Aston Martin. And Perez had set in place the legal motion that was needed for to get Vijay Mallya essentially out of the team and bring Laurence Stroll in. And so he'd done all this stuff for the team, and he'd been there for so long, he'd been such a warrior. And then he gets kind of pushed out for Sebastian. So I do feel that that's quite unfortunate, but this is the problem you always have with an F1. There's lots of very good drivers, and there's only 20 seats on the grid, and some seats are better than others. And yeah, Sebastian's cachet as a 4-time world champion is hard to argue against, and that's, I guess, the reason that they've gone for him over Sergio.
Lenny, what do you think? How do you think Sergio Perez would be feeling about this one?
Not good, apparently. I mean, there was the COVID infection he also had in Silverstone. That was also very difficult to handle, I think. So they had to bring in Hülkenberg, and he went for P3 in qualifying when he was in the car the second weekend. So that was harsh for him to accept that someone else was getting this nice spot that he could have had achieved in Silverstone. And yeah, now getting the boot. I mean, it's hard because as we just discussed. I mean, it's he didn't do anything wrong. We can say that he didn't do any mistakes. So he wasn't slow. He was always on the pace. But yeah, I think that the package that Sepp is bringing, if you want to sell a lot of road cars, maybe in Germany too, with Aston Martin, with the brand, it might help to have a German driver in the car. And actually, with all the British sense of humor that Seb's having and all that interest in the heritage of motor racing and the sport, he's a perfect fit for the Aston Martin brand. And if you see him doing commercials for Aston Martin, it's really a good fit that would make the brand more accepted and make it grow, of course.
And then Laurence, I suppose, just speaking about Sergio Perez still, and just wondering where he could go, because again, he is such a quality driver, and if you only had to pull up Twitter to see a couple of names trending, and probably wondering if these drivers, aka Romain Grosjean, as well as Kimi Raikkonen, given his age, should probably be sleeping with one eye open, or maybe two eyes open and looking over their shoulder, because why wouldn't either of these teams probably replace these two guys to, with the likes of Sergio Perez? Which one do you think is likely?
From the very early kind of signs that we've heard, Alfa Romeo seems quite likely. Of course, Sergio has a history with that team. It used to be Sauber. Arguably the greatest result of Perez's career came at the Malaysian Grand Prix in 2012, where he very nearly won the race in a Sauber. So I think that would be a natural fit, but I'm sure he's got time to think about it, time to kind of consider it if both teams are interested, and weigh up his options. The sad thing is that both represent a step back down the grid, and we talk about Sebastian kind of being relatively old and kind of moving towards the end of his career. Well, the same is true of Perez, and he's never really been given that opportunity. The big move was when he went to McLaren in 2013, and it happened to be the same year that McLaren's form started to tail off, and they're only just recovering now. So it was really unfortunate timing, because he was considered to be one of the next big things, one of the top drivers who's linked to Ferrari for a long time as well, who's part of their driver academy, but it never came together. And now, just as the team that he's devoted so much of his time to, as I said earlier, comes together, he's got to leave and find an option somewhere else.
And then Laurence, I mean, like I said, we've been looking at Ferrari's woes this entire season, and just saying that for Seb, it just must be a nightmare on top of a nightmare, knowing that, the car is just not up to scratch at all. And then the fact that that you probably feel like this team, or that this team doesn't really have your back in it. But now that he's settled into another contract, he knows he has a future that, at the moment looks very exciting, given from what he's seeing Racing Point do so far this season. Do you think this will help his performances or mood any at all for the rest of this season?
I think so. Certainly it takes some of the pressure off. I mean, he may have known that this was really an option for a while now, so perhaps he's had that on his back. But to go to the relationship with Ferrari, I think it's with the top management where perhaps things have fallen apart. I think he still feels, or certainly he says that he feels, a great connection with the brand, but also with the mechanics and the engineers who are working so hard to try and turn the situation around. So if he can give them the kind of send-off that he'd like to give, then that would be fantastic. So I think he is still absolutely motivated to do well at Ferrari, and also every racing driver in the world wants to drive for Ferrari at one time. They want it to be a glorious time. Okay, that's not going to happen now in the remainder of this season, given where Ferrari are, but if he can get one last result, maybe one last chance podium somewhere, that would be a real nice way for him to sign off with Ferrari and say thank you to all the people there that, to be fair, have been very close family for him over such a long period of time.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube, and for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app, and for premium content plus live streaming, make sure to subscribe to ESPN Player.